Hi there. Good morning, Menno. So, welcome to our webinar series about UX and AI. This is something that we are doing to delve a little bit about the challenges that are nowadays that we are facing around UX and AI and how the UX and AI mix all together. So, let's start by doing some introductions. So, today we have Menno Cramer from OutSystems. Menno, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Menno, as you said. I am a neuroscientist by training, but I've been in IT for over a decade in product, in design. I worked with you in 2016, the long time ago. And now I'm director of UX at OutSystems. So I manage a team of designers, work a lot with customers all over the world. That's a bit about me.
Very cool, very cool. So, and my name is Ricardo Luiz. I also worked with you in 2016 at OutSystems, and I've been doing product UX, also neurocognitive science by training. So we have that in common for sure. And we both landed in this UX product side of things. And right now I'm here at Mediaweb as a UX strategist to help design this new thing that we are calling AI-driven UX, especially because we see that there's a lot of noise about UX and AI in the market, especially AI right now. But what we've seen over and over is that people either don't know exactly how to implement AI or what bits of AI can actually leverage in their experience. And one of the things that we are definitely seeing is that things are shifting and we need to adapt to this new thing because it's not the same thing to design an interface or an experience, a full experience to use AI, than a traditional experience that we were used to design until a year ago, let's say. So today we would love to hear your thoughts about how AI and UX are mixing up. And we know that we have two sides of the same coin, right? We have the side that we leverage AI to help the team deliver probably better and leverage that. And then the other one is that how can we leverage AI components to rethink journeys and flows on the side of the customer, because this is going to be a challenge because it's a change process and everything, because you AI UIs are going to be a lot different from the normal UIs, I think. Let's hear it from you, Menno. What are your thoughts about this one?
Sure. So actually, to start at the beginning, you said the coin has two sides. I actually think a coin has three sides, right? It has a heads, a tails, and a side. Which is also for us how I see it. Really, I mean, AI happens at three different layers. The first one is in the ways of working. You can use ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever to help you do your job. Ask it questions as a sparring partner. I don't know. You can upload an interview script and ask, what is the bias I have here? Or like all that kind of stuff, which is really designer centered, ways of working centered integration of AI. Then the second layer we see is AI in the product itself. So passive or active under the hood or like real AI driven features in the product itself. Then you might be using AI to design AI, which is already interesting. And then with our products, customers build apps that contain AI. So they want to build agents or whatever. So then you use AI to design the product that contains AI to build applications which have AI, right? So there's quite the AI fatigue happening already as well. It's like, oh yeah, yet another feature with AI. But I think it's important to look at these three layers, right? Because the first one is really, I don't know, internal. As a manager, you can own and govern how people use it and how they get comfortable with it. And I always kind of say it's like how Grammarly checks your email is how ChatGPT in a few months will just read everything that you do and it should become embedded within your thinking even. And then the products, it's a bit of a tougher issue. And then how customers do it, it's even harder because it's partially out of our control, right? So even putting your UX head on, you need to understand what they want, understand what they need, explain them the difference, what it is between what they want and what they need. And that's how a good UXer would approach any issue, I think. But yeah, that's really how I see it play out for now. Yeah, that's I guess a good start.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because, and as you said, in terms of the process, in terms of the approach, nothing has changed, right? So we are doing exactly the same things. We are, and when I say we, I'm meaning the UX side of things. What we are doing is still the same. So we are translating, we are digging, we are kind of going under and seeing exactly what the root cause of something, of a problem, of a pain really is. And then we are translating. This translation process now has this layer called AI that we can use. And for me, it's like this is the layered approach. And what I'm seeing is that we are now seeing more of AI, but we'll see less of the system. And this is going to be one big challenge because it will impact very deeply how people actually interact with systems. But I know that you had some very curious and very serious thoughts about this.
Yeah, so I think, well, with how people interact with systems with AI, I think that's actually a big unknown in the market right now because there's a huge variety in how comfortable people are with it or not. And there's a huge difference in to what extent AI is disclosed or not. So I think let's get one elephant out of the room. Lots of things are being called AI today that are not AI. I think that's the first issue. The second issue is lots of things are done with AI and people don't know, which I'm not sure is an issue. It's just I don't know. We can observe people's behavior and their opinions and their changes, and it may be AI or not. It may be a version of automation or not. It may be a version of machine learning or not. It may be a pre-scripted conversational agent that technically can be done perfectly without AI. Like it doesn't like so. There are a lot of different flavors. But I think there's really something in the UX field happening regarding the trust. Because I don't want to go towards like intuitive design, but I guess good UX to some extent, and especially us coming from a psychology, cognitive science, neuroscience background, intuition, it's not an art, it's a science, right? I think we both are on that side of the fence. There is a rhyme and reason to why something is intuitive. It's not intuitive for fun. And with AI, it's a little bit difficult because it's a bit more unpredictable. Asking the same question twice and getting a different answer, I mean, that causes issues in users because I don't know, if you ask me a question, hey, what did you do this week? And I give you an answer, and then you ask it again, what did you do this week? And I give another answer, that immediately attacks trust, right? So I think there's a lot to be explored and a lot to be done and a lot to be tested. And even from an industry perspective, it's actually kind of funny. All the base exposure that society has to AI is LLMs and chatbots or versions of that, which is already, I don't know, it's a fraction of what it can and what it should do. But all of them have this disclaimer as in AI makes mistakes, please check it yourself. That is really violating one of the, I don't know, most human concepts, which is that we're all lazy, if you like it or not. I am willing to stick up for that one. So no one is going to check if it's accurate or not, like, or the vast majority of people are, because I think it's right. And it's like just the bias combined with the assumption of it's better than nothing, or humans make mistakes too, or like you get all these kind of answers. It's like, okay, it's not entirely accurate, but it's also, I don't know. Imagine you produce something with AI, right? And then, or a decision gets made with AI. Option one, users make mistakes too. Option two, if you need to review something, users only pick out the high, like we are not machines either, right? So we don't read an article word for word, 100% equal valence to each single entity. So I don't know. There are 100 ways that lead to Rome, and maybe AI can be one of them. And then users kind of accept it, and then all those errors kind of get taken for granted.
But the supervision side of things is definitely one that now needs to be very well thought and very well crafted in the experience. Although I agree with you about the laziness, and people tend to do, even we nowadays, it's not about AI, is that does actually anyone read the policy terms and conditions of a given site or a given software? No one. Just accept, man, I just want to do this thing, right?
Don't know the example. I think it was Ryanair. I should find the example. I think there was a court case even won because the lawyer could prove that nobody read the conditions anyways, which is like, which is, it's even beyond like, because again, we're creatures of habit, right? So we all do the same within boundary. We all do the same thing. We all act the same way. We all react the same way. Then you have a nature and a nurture piece. Fine, there's a biological piece, there's a cultural piece. Certain cultures might have different attitudes to certain things. Even like on a persona level, there might, I guess, be different user types that act slightly different. And now even, I guess, the younger they go, yeah, I'll accept whatever. I'll share cookies. I don't care. I'll accept whatever you want because you know the data about me anyways, right? That's kind of
I want to use it.
the
Yeah.
attitude. Exactly. As long as
Yeah.
the gain for the user is bigger than the cost, I think nobody really cares. The question is the gain truly bigger or not? Because I mean, yeah.
But actually, that was my follow-up, my segue to this, which was we know that there's limitations. We know that AI, especially generative AI, it will provide different answers if you ask for summaries of stuff. Although like 80, 90%, 70% of the core is going to be there anyway. So the main features, the main ideas will be there, but the way that it describes maybe changes. So one thing that I'm seeing when I'm especially designing or I'm trying to concept something in with AI is that it has to have a good enough level of return on investment. So it has to change a little bit. It has to offload something out of my workflow enough that it's now worthwhile for me to kind of just check quickly if that makes sense or not. If something is right or if something is good enough to advise me on making some decisions on my own. So I think that the balance is in between the level of comfort that someone feels about the system that's now advising or providing feed-forward information, and the trade-off in between that and what they did before. So,
I
what?
hear you, but there's a real difference, in my opinion, between an accelerator to do a task and a replacement of a subset of a task.
Yeah, I agree.
Because when it's an accelerator, it helps you to do something. And then with the human in the loop, there's not even really an approval or deny or integration stage. There's just something happened. Now I take it over and I continue, rather than the approval stage where a single task is fully done from beginning to end. And now somehow you need to take it over and take accountability of a decision AI made. That can even be like reporting or whatever. Or like it can even be I'm not talking about generative AI alone, because I think even from a user perspective, there's a real difference between, and even societally, we see that, right? The fear of being replaced is so big that there's also hesitation. But there's a major difference between it being an acceleration of a subset of the task that you're doing, or and maybe it's not even tasks alone. It's also the bit you're accountable for or the bit you're responsible for. Rather than it taking over full end-to-end journeys, and then you're kind of blind, because then the only thing you can do is like what? Read the summary, read the logs, read a report. And again, we go back to the previous statement, humans are lazy. No one likes to do that stuff. So then we're going to build agents that are going to write summaries of those logs and summaries of those reports. And yeah,
I agree.
interesting
I
for sure.
agree. Yeah, that's why I prefer always to have the human enhancement side of things. So how do you provide people with superpowers, as you were saying? So how can you speed up parts of the process, parts of my flow that then enable me to shine as being the efficient super producer and the big contributor of the company or the big contributor in that organization. So I rather prefer to right now because again, as you were saying, it is about trust. And if we don't it's trust and change management as we know very well. And then when people change the way that they have to work, they need to trust the process before they make the change. And this is the bit that I think that we make a lot of difference when we bring the right level of UX to design and think and provide some interactions in this process, because as UX people, we have to think about how do we build this trust, right, in the process. So what do you think about that?
So I think trust, and again, we touched upon it briefly before. I think partially comes with intuition, right? Even like the human brain is wired to release dopamine if you can accurately predict what's going to happen. That's why Ed Sheeran and Justin Bieber have so much money, because if you can predict what will happen, then you get happy, because then it's like your mind successfully completed the invisible task, right? And I think UX is the same. If you know what to do, if you know where to go, if you know where to click, if you know where to put input or take output or whatever, then you also trust because you subconsciously think, if I click on this button, will that happen? It happens. You're happy. It's like, great job, Menno. You did the right thing. Submit means submit. Well done. Who would have thought? And with AI, it's a little bit more risky because AI can do things that may or may not be entirely shared or known or given. Like there's almost this. So part is the trust, I guess. Like, do I know what's happening? Which maybe is just solved by time, right? Again, we get used to things too. So eventually, like we've built in the past like a lot of like routing engines for customers, and they need to plan their trucks, so they need to plan their routes, so they need to whatever. And the drivers don't know what's happened, and the drivers don't know how the engine is calculating time and distance and job focus. They just wake up in the morning, they open their mobile or their iPad, and they say start route, and they go. They blindly trust in or an engine or a person or some kind of algorithm that predicts routing and traffic and weather and whatever. Which all of it, as I also said before, that was done without AI, and that will now be done with AI or a version of AI. So maybe the trust issue, as long as the end experience is flawless and is correct and meets the expectations of the user, I think that can greatly help because then I know that, I don't know, AI in the beginning, it generated really bad pictures and it generated all kinds of things. And then it's hallucinating, which is even strange because hallucination implies that there's cognitive capability, which I think is very much debatable on the current state of AI that we're at. So even I think we should be careful using cognitive or psychological constructs for a non-cognitive thing as of now, but maybe let's not go there. Um, but I think so there on the trust, I think it's like, I don't know. I really think time will heal that because we'll start to understand that yeah, sometimes it'll make mistakes. Sometimes it's smarter than us. Sometimes it's faster than us. I think the vast majority of game these days and the future months and years is that it can do computations faster than we can. And then there's a part of the transparency, right? I guess as designers, we need to think, will we have like a log of, hey, the AI is running and like, I don't know, 1 out of 18 tasks done, 2 out of 18, and you can click on it and expand and see what the AI is doing? Because the a big part of the trust is the unfamiliarity of what's happening.
The control.
And it's like, I don't know, we need to come up with the AI version of the loading spinner or the moving documents from folder to folder that used to jump from left to right. So sad. I guess we need to come up with the AI version of that, and seeing the current UI trends, I'm sure it will flash and glimmer and glitter to let you know that AI is working under the hood.
Yeah, that's actually something that I was thinking about as you were talking, that for sure one thing. So we have two components, right? We have like the perception of control, that is this part of this trust building that we have, because people need to feel that they are in control, not necessarily that they are in control, but they need to feel. That's why the loading, the number of tasks completed, and all of that, what they are providing is a perception of control. And then it's convenience, because as you said, we are lazy animals, so we do have this inclination to prefer stuff that it's convenient, it's easy, it's comfortable, and it's a lot easier. One thing that leads to this is that, and I don't know if you agree or not, Menno, but I honestly think that the professionals in the area need to start thinking about a new set of heuristics, because we are used to the traditional, and this came from the 1990s. So we still are applying heuristics from Norman Nielsen back in the, I don't know, 1995, 1996, something like that. They are still applicable today. So it's been 30 years almost. And with AI, finally, I think that we have a technological shift that we really need to think about. What are the new heuristics when we start applying and we start to think about AI interfaces, AI interactions? Probably there's a new set of heuristics that we need to develop to help the teams to better think about what this experience should look like. What are people going to look into these interfaces that will make them feel safe, in control, and
Yeah.
consider them intuitive?
For sure. I think we probably should have done that already pre AI boost, though. I think even like VR, AR, touchscreens, all those things are already challenging some of the standardized UX market heuristics. Also from an interaction design point of view, from like that, even what children born after 2010 grow up with, they expect a screen to be touchscreen. Like there's not, and it's not even like real world versus digital world matching real behavior. It's like, no, their real behavior is a different real behavior than ours, which
than
even
ours.
that, I think that is not taken into account in any of the heuristics, which are, it's kind of the same as like the new way of looking at intelligence. It's not only IQ and EQ, but also AQ. So your adaptability quotient is becoming more and more important than your IQ or EQ, because things are changing so fast and tech is changing so fast, and change is the only constant, which is a narrative we are very familiar with. But it's also kind of I don't know, maybe that doesn't apply to everyone in my close circles, and maybe not everyone is as comfortable with change. And even if you take that to a design perspective, imagine hypothetical scenario in the future, applications can evolve themselves based upon behavior, right? Maybe it's a bit far-fetched, but I honestly don't think it's that far. I think we're going to get a massive hurdle if you log into Zoom in the morning or in Slack or LinkedIn or your email, and the engine optimized and routed the different experience for you. Going back to the point that we're creatures of habit, I'm really not sure they'll be that delighted that all of a sudden the save button is on the other side of the screen because they rendered it to be more efficient and optimal for you. Like there's a huge learning curve and there's a huge bias in what we find comfortable in behavior. And there, I think, especially on the heuristics as well. Of course, there are certain things, again, they're rooted in science, like visual hierarchy. I mean, it applies to UX as much as architecture, as urban planning, as whatever. Like there is a certain hierarchy because we're a species. It's how we evaluate a room, how we evaluate a website, how we evaluate any designed object. That actually, just on a side note, like that's the area where ergonomics is moving into. It's like the neuroergonomics. So what is intuitive for your brain, not the weight of the handle of the knife that you need to hold to cut, but the brain is also a
I was
biological
thinking
piece of
about the
us.
same.
Exactly. So it's like, and that part, I think that part definitely needs an upgrade to this day and age. And then I think, as I said, the addition of the technological speed of innovation that is just rewriting and challenging some of the existing heuristics, but also there's some of them missing. Like I think the real world is one
Very
that I
cool.
always struggle with. It's even like in the past, we've had this discussion in the past. Why we're building tabs, because we used to be used to tabs. I was like, I was born post tabs. Why am I using tabs in the shape of tabs? Because it's not my real world example. Like it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and yeah, we have several of those examples. I love to geek out with you on the neurocognitive side of things and how are these things popping up and why do we need to think about these things. So I want to get a bit more practical, but still being on a layer of abstraction that it's applicable to a lot of stuff. So one thing that I was even the other day in our podcast, I was discussing with Nelson, and we were talking about how now we see that the visible parts of the UI is becoming smaller, and then what is underneath the hood is becoming a lot bigger. So, and then we saw that Greg posted something about the same, which is okay, he sees the iceberg now. It used to be like this, so it used to be a very big UI and then some stuff under the hood to be the engine of that. And now he sees the true iceberg where there's like a tip of the iceberg, which is the visible UI, and then you have a lot of stuff happening under the hood because of AI. So this is a big shift. Uh, do you have something around these things? Do you have any comments about this? Do you see it?
So it's actually funny because on that comment, I think you had the pyramid and the upside down pyramid and the pyramid like this, and the line was Figma. The line wasn't UX UI, which the comment section exploded. If you thought UX was UI, then you didn't understand what UX was. I was like, yes, I get that. He was trying to make a different point. Sure, fair. But it's about the front end layer that's exposed to the end user. It's not even about UI as a skill set per se, right? But I agree, because I do think more and more will go under the hood, and that will become more and more complicated to even design for, which is actually something as well with the team now. Like, we have the UI layer, then we have the UX layer, but you also have the solution design layer and the problem definition layer. And I see the whole field shifting left towards coming up with great solutions and experiences that might be interaction design, or I already saw someone who called it relationship design, because even the user and the agent are going to build a relationship rather than just interaction. And that's a new layer of thinking about how we should design. And I think we can use a lot of service design principles in there. We can use a lot of interaction design principles in there, but then it's UX interaction design. It's not UI interaction design, right? So I think
Exactly.
there's a lot also of retraining and re-education to be done, because I think people are very geared towards shifting right, because engineers, they need the Figma file to implement. They don't need the concepts to implement, which will have some hurdles in between, because when you now give a concept to engineers, they're like, what do I do with this? When you force a designer to give a Figma and they need to justify their design decisions, it's like, okay, but we could have done another concept. Like, there are 100 ways that lead to Rome. Why did we pick this one? So yeah, I think that there's a lot of work to be done. I think on that shift, I'm not sure if the UI is getting smaller per se, but definitely under the hood is becoming more important. Yeah.
It's going to be different. I agree with you that, well, in most cases, what I'm seeing is that the UI is going to become a little bit less heavy, or at least less complex. It should, but it definitely is going to be different. And I don't think that we are at the stage that teams have realized that.
Yeah.
We really are in the place in time that if we really want to bring a full-fledged AI into our systems, we really need to start understanding what would be the intuition part of someone interacting with that system that now
Yeah.
can ask questions in a natural language, can actually supervise stuff that is happening under the hood and stuff like that. So I think the challenge now is going to be how do you provide that level of control in the interface, like you were
Yeah.
mentioning. So we have to define that. And then is how do you design that relationship, interaction, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
side of the interaction, and then providing the option for people to go back to like the old ways or revert
Yeah.
or have like a double-sided interface almost because I do agree with you in this transition from now where we are today accustomed to what we do and
Yeah.
to a place where we can actually trust the systems and the systems are at the level that we can actually trust them. We have to do something in between that doesn't break that trust cycle and that understanding. Okay. But we were having a conversation the other day about and I really loved what you mentioned about the level of complexity of the agents versus the
Yeah.
level of complexity of,
Of
go ahead.
the
Yeah, no, no,
yes,
no,
just
yeah,
so
yeah,
so
yeah.
so I related with what you said, is where the complexity is going to shift. It's actually funny. I really see on the technical side and on the AI side, agents are getting smaller and smaller, so they're more dedicated. They can act on real context, and it's like it's a really small thing. And then you have agentic workflows, or you have an agentic sequence of things that may happen parallel or sequential. And then also now with MCP, with like all other agent parts of how to make them work better. But on the technological side, it's like getting smaller and smaller and smaller, more specific. And then maybe you have 10 agents, 20 agents, 50 agents under the hood doing something. But from the end user, it's going bigger and bigger and bigger, because there is not that counter of I'm currently using agent one, I'm currently using agent four. Currently, we have 8 agents were working. Like, so, and it's just the system does stuff. And I want to move away from like everything is magic, even though magic has AI in it. I don't know if you realize that ever, but I mean, it is quite funny. But it's like from a user perspective, they are just, it's like multiple journeys, multiple jobs to be done, multiple even tasks that personas maybe used to do can now be done with from a perception point, single agent that from a technological point can be 10 agents, 20 agents, whatever. And that will really cause a problem also, I think, how they're determined or specified, because I really think we'll need to shift towards a new user story model of I want to, in order that, so that, blah, 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 for a user story for an agent type. Like, how is an agent going to be built and determined and refined and defined? Because from the business, you're going to get the end criteria. I want the user to go somewhere and click here and this happens. And then you need to figure out, okay, do I do that with a single agent? Do I do that with 10, 20, 100? Like, how is that going to work? And I think there's a lot of work to be done because even like there's not enough knowledge in the market in the industry yet. Like if I go to our customers, if you are a BA or an SME or like if you are given the challenge to figure that out, it's often, okay, what data do we have? I mean, data always comes around. Like, what do I have access to? What can I have access to? And then how does that work? Like, how do I build the small ones? How do I put them in a row? And then there's a large part like where this gap of what designers can bring and what business and IT need. And I really think UX as a whole needs to step up their game there because they should be the one that understand how they can be designed and defined, even if there's no UI associated with it, and how the end user then benefits from that with or without UI. I mean, you can also have a user benefit and a user ROI without it ever coming to a screen, right? And that is going to be very scary for a lot of people because then you're a designer that doesn't produce any assets. But the end user would be extremely happy, which is your success metric, right? Or if it's business optimization or ROI or whatever we want to attach there. But that's, I think, a major shift. I even wrote about it a while ago, and I was kind of probing the team to say UX is dead and UX is gonna die because you need to be provocative to make them move.
Wake up.
They'll probably watch this, so I'm gonna get some trouble for this, but that's fine. But it was like, maybe we should redefine it towards like it's a task experience rather than a user experience. Because in AI, it is not the user. They don't have feelings. They don't like it. It's irrelevant. They just execute for now. So maybe we should understand how we can optimize tasks and sequences of tasks rather than emotional journeys with feelings. I mean, I don't know, like I haven't seen a useful emotional journey mapping for an agent yet. Like now my agent is unhappy, or now my agent is busy, or now my agent is what? Like there's no UX framework for that yet, and that will cause challenges for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. So I was wondering, and going to a more grounded conversation now, landing a little bit more on our feet, having in mind all the customers that you know, all the customer examples that you probably have been in contact with, either directly or indirectly through the team. What are the, I would say, opportunities that you're seeing? So what are the journeys, patterns, behaviors that probably could benefit from from AI, sorry, today that you've seen that the industry hasn't tackled it yet, or people haven't even started to think about it, how AI could leverage immediately? I have a few examples in my head, but I would love to hear what from that exposure to the market, what are your takes? So what are the missed opportunities that we probably have the most?
So I can think of two things to start with. I think every designer should, I don't know, whenever you are in like a vision session with a client or whenever you're ideating on what's possible, it's like keep the chatbot conversation off the table for a while. Like try to ideate without the easy answers. And I think there are a lot of things to be done that are not a conversational agent or a support agent or whatever. I think that is good exercise number one. And I think the other one is like there's a lot of gain to be had on getting AI in like the boring businesses mentality, right? What are the tasks that nobody wants to do, that nobody cares about? Like, let's put some AI there. Like, let's figure out how. And it's almost like the evolution of RPA, I guess, or on like a more behavioral layer of RPA. It's like let's just figure out what are the processes that this customer client's business has and how can we redesign and redefine those. And if I can add a third one, it's again like when I think there's a big a big gain to be had that I see a lot of people missing. They're optimizing single journeys rather than problem to solution. So it's like imagine a customer has a workflow that contains 5 different personas. It might be, I don't know, a sales guy, and then something else, and then a agent, like a human agent, and then a I don't know, an executor, someone that comes to your house to perform a service, right? And first you get sold something, then you sign something, then maybe there's a sizing or a scoping, or like someone comes to do a quote, and then maybe from problem to solution, my easiest way is to not optimize persona 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, but to say, hey, from 1 to 4, how can I build a single journey? Because yes, we can shrink the cycles between. Yes, we can optimize the processes in between. But if it's the same agent or the same group of agents or the same master agents going to execute all those tasks, then there's no handover. Like there's no human handover. So maybe that report in the middle, maybe we don't need because no one is going to read that report because I wrote the content of the report, right? So, and I think that is a missed opportunity by really breaking the persona mentality and even the jobs to be done mentality of, I don't know, those jobs are going to change. So we need a new framework that caters to agent jobs to be done.
I agree essentially with the core of that because I do see the same and it seems like we are talking about this because we have it on Mediaweb site and the explanation of the UX driven AI. It's like a jump in between a few steps and now you shorten the cycle because we do that because we do believe in the same principle, which is right now you need to understand what are the missed opportunities. I like to see it more from this angle because it is not about just optimizing what's probably working already well. We can do that for sure, but the biggest return on investment it's tapping into the untapped opportunities because one example that I also like to think about is nowadays it's possible through AI, but it was literally either very complex or close to impossible to crawl through your database, get all the aggregated information about behaviors of a single customer, a single organization, a company, or whatever, and then having that at your disposal whenever you need it to feed forward information, to advise you, to be your sidekick as well. You would have to have like a lot of reports or a CRM to provide a bit of the information, and then you would have like the customer side of things, like customer support, customer success, and then you would have a lot of information that you'd have to either really consume or be exposed to, and even so you would scratch the surface, like you would get like 20% of it right. And right now, we do have that opportunity. We do have the opportunity to have the system informing you at your fingertips, at your eye level, in a much easier, faster way that you would ever have. So you have this ability to tap into the invisible part of the system that was either unknown. So those were the dungeons that no one wanted to go to because they were like either complex or I would have to do some SQL queries and then I don't know how to do that. And then I would have to know exactly what to query about because and what the queries would look like and all of that. And nowadays, you could actually build some interfaces. You can actually build the flows, as you say, that would provide that experience, regardless of the persona, regardless of the, whatever we have in mind. So I do see a lot of opportunity, and I really love the examples that you gave because it is about not thinking about how can I speed up this specific task that the job to be done that I had, but
Yeah,
if I now step back a little bit and say, why did I have those jobs to be done in the first place? Because I had system limitations that were kind of limiting me on those, right? And now
exactly.
I love like how you expose them because it is stepping back, looking at the full thing and say, but what are the main goals of this system anyway? So what are we trying to get out of this? And then
Which is
thinking,
what good UXers do anyways, right? You don't just
exactly.
optimize what's there, you step back, you try to understand why was this there in the first place. And I don't know, so many of our clients, they have a table, so they need a faster table. So they want, okay, I have this table, but I need this table sortable or with better filters, or I need a grid, or I need a whatever. I mean, just going back to some of the good old days. And then maybe what you need is not a table. What you need is a proper step-by-step workflow that helps you and gets you the data that you need rather than you having to fish the data you need, right? So, and but that's hard actually because that also that means that when AI and UX is done properly, the change management will be bigger, the adoption you need to handhold them a little bit more. You need to more think about, okay, this journey, this experience has changed. How can I move and migrate this user group from old journey to new journey? And it's also do it with them, like hold their hand, like make sure they're part of the design. Otherwise, you're just gonna hit friction and you're gonna hit a lot of issues. But again, that requires a mindset change even in the design process and in the collaboration with clients, with anyone that wants to build something with AI.
Yeah, I agree. I think that what you're saying is something that I agree 100%, which is if we keep doing the things the same way we have done so far, we will build the same stuff anyway. So we will do more fancy because they will have like a sparkle of AI on top of
Exactly.
it. Yeah. Okay, it's going to be shinier, but in terms of impact, in terms of return, no. Okay. So if we are really thinking about how we can do a big dent in the return of investment when we are talking about I agree with you. It has to be something that it's very different, so different from what we have today, that it is going to be a change management process as well at the same time. And it has to be incremental. It has to have some railguards to it because you have to roll back to the previous experience if people freak out and want to understand what's happening. And I
Or
agree with all of
always
that.
have an escape, like always have an escape and jump out or ask for help or have this handhold, as I said. Like I think we really need to think of things
Yeah,
like
I
that.
I agree. But then the productivity level and not just about productivity. And this is something that I want to also to just to finish our conversation. Something that I really wanted to pick your brain on, and I want to almost get the myth out of the way. Because when we talk about AI, we talk a lot about efficiency and talk about how we can make stuff faster and quicker and do a lot more with the same time and all of that. But I also see it as we can actually now do something, a lot of stuff differently. So we can do actually stuff that has more impact, that it's more meaningful for the business. And it's not necessarily that it's going to be faster or quicker or a lot more in the same time, blah, blah, blah. It's about now we can actually build experiences that deliver more business value. I don't
Exactly.
care if they are faster. I don't care if they are. I care about the impact in the business. So if I have someone in my team that now is going to be able to do stuff with more impact in the business, I don't care if it's like 2 or 3 things or if it's 10, but it's the level of impact that that person now brings to the organization. That is going to be a game changer for sure.
For sure. So I think the old model, I think, is or the old UX model is making things easier, better, faster, right? So making it easier for the user, intuition, better data supported decisions or whatever, and faster, I don't know, less clicks. I don't want to use it, but we've all heard it at some point in our lives. That's the old model of UX trying to make better experiences, easier, better, faster. Now with AI, I don't know, it's more predictive. It's more anticipating things that you didn't know before. Like it's not even easier or better. It's different. Like you can make other decisions than you could before. And I even think it's sometimes like in the UX group, we have UX generalists and specialists. And the AI based experiences are going to make everyone more of a generalist because you're going to be more T-shaped individuals because you have a wider reach of pieces of your task and your job and your organization that you previously maybe didn't have. And it's like that is changing the journeys that you can do because more area fits under the T shape of the graph of capabilities and skills and jobs to be done that you can do, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So AI will push you outwards, as in to other roles and departments. And it's like different skills that maybe you didn't have that now AI can help you with or do for you. And then you have the skills gap piece, which is the long part of the T, which is doing better at what you do. And I think a lot of people focus only on that part, making it easier, better, faster, because it's the traditional UX mindset. And very few people look at journeys that can be done wider with pieces that, and it's even building journeys that didn't exist. Like the example before, if you want to buy a service for your house and you need to get the quote, like you have the marketing person, you have the quote person, you have the executor, and then the build. That's already 4 departments. And now maybe the same person that can contact you about what you can do is the same person that can send you the build because the rest is being done through an
Data
agentic
system.
layer, right?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Menno, to finish this very interesting, and we could be talking here for hours, I'm sure. Just two last questions. So one, actually not question, but advice is more or tips. So one advice or one tip for the UX teams, and one tip, one advice for the customers that are scratching their heads around what can I do with AI?
The first one that comes to mind is the same for both, which is don't be scared. I really think that there's such hesitation and friction. It's just try, like, just think, when we did visions and stuff, the question I always ask at the end, like, imagine it's Christmas and you can ask for whatever you want. What would it be? Treat AI the same way, not to make it a gimmick and it's unrealistic and too futuristic and we don't have budget to implement this. No, but to allow your mind to you know what? If AI could solve that, I will buy in and I fully believe it, right? So open your mind a bit as business, as CIO, whatever. Like, think about, no, but really, what's the problem I have that I can solve? And then let's AI stand up for itself. Let's have them prove that this agentic workflow can actually solve these hardcore business problems that I have. I think that's advice number one, and I'll take it for both. They both count for both. Ensure you put metrics there. Like, you can only measure impact and success if you measure pre-design solution and post-design solution. And the vast majority of UXs are horrible at this because it might be built in different systems, meaning I cannot compare apples and pears. Or you can, but anyway, whatever. But it's like, make sure that you measure the impact so you can also tweak and change and learn and evolve it, because the agents you're going to build are not going to be finished on day one. And the agents should learn and evolve in itself, which is probably a different agent that helps the agent evolve. And I think that are really two things. So one, open your mind as far as you can, but at the same time, and I think this will help you stay grounded too, attach it to metrics that you can actually measure, control, and make sense. And then these can be experience-based metrics or business-based metrics. Just find a metric the business cares about and attach your agent solution, your agentic workflow, or your future UI to that. And then that can really help you, I think, get started, get buy-in, and make sure that what you have actually works.
I love that. So your next article, it's about metrics, right?
I have 3 in draft already. If you want, I can share them with you. But
I would love, man. I was looking forward to spread that around the community for sure. Menno, this was a lot of fun as usual. I really loved the conversation.
of
For
course,
the people watching the recording afterwards, yeah, we geeked out for the first 20, 30 minutes, but then I
my
think we
apologies.
rounded up. No, our apologies because we liked to establish. But for the UX people watching this, I think that those 30 minutes are really important to understand the intellectual side, the foundation side of how you are a UX person and not something else. For everyone else, I think that the last part, man, it's super important to have a good watch. And I love the advices, man. We definitely will make some shorts and advertise this everywhere. Because I do see the same. So we need to have that courage to give the first step. And if we are not brave enough to try and abstract ourselves to outside of the realm of the limitations that we now see that the system has, we are never going to build something that doesn't have those guardrails, doesn't have those limitations and hurdles. So, Menno, man, really cool
100%.
conversation. Love to
Thank
have
you.
you. And I can wait for the next one for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Bye bye.